Hello, I am the Greek Geek because I'm Greek and indeed a geek. So with Glass already released, crap, I'm really behind. Let's get straight into it. So, in Philadelphia in 1961, really? Philadelphia? Again, M. Night? You're like Stephen King. You're always setting your movies in the same place. Anyway, a baby is born with osteogenesis imperfecta, which basically translates to his bones are really brittle. When he grows up, he seeks out a man who is his polar opposite, a man who is indestructible, or unbreakable, if you will. Bruce Willis plays David Dunn, who is just a regular security guard who has superpowers. How has he not realized that he has superpowers until he is middle-aged? He doesn't realize that when he touches people, he can see their futures, or he has above average strength, and that he doesn't take any damage whatsoever. And also his weakness is water. What is he, like a hybrid between a human and one of those aliens from Signs? But seriously, his weakness is water, as in he can't swim. Just a couple of swimming lessons and then he is invincible. Samuel L. Jackson plays Elijah Prince, aka Mr. Glass, a guy with very brittle bones that break very easily. He should have drank more milk when he was a kid.
He needs some milk!
Robin Wright Penn plays Audrey Dunn, who is David's wife, and it's complicated. And Spencer Treat Clark plays David's son, who has the bluest eyes I have ever seen. All the actors in this movie have done a really good job, in my opinion. Even the child actor who plays David's son did a really good job as well. I'm not usually a fan of child actors. They usually annoy me a lot, but this kid wasn't too bad. One scene comes to mind when David's son grabs a gun and is going to shoot David in order to find out if he really is invincible and can't be wounded. That scene is really intense and is really, really well acted. I enjoyed seeing the relationship of David and Audrey, seeing that their marriage has deteriorated by showing and not telling. Like we see that David takes off his wedding ring. When they first see each other after the accident, they don't really hug or show any major signs of affection, and they don't hold hands. And I like that they show that and don't tell through some awkward exposition. And then later on in the movie, they try and get their marriage back on track, and it feels really real and authentic, and I really liked that. So with this movie being directed by M. Night Shyamalan, there is a 50-50 chance of this movie being really good or really bad. They say that every time that M. Night makes a movie, the movie gods toss a coin and the world holds its breath to find out if the movie is good or terrible. But luckily, this movie is actually good. The movie gods were kind. This being an M. Night Shyamalan movie as well, there is a lot of M. Night Shyamalan isms in this movie, if that makes sense. He does a lot of the same things in his movies. For example, he puts himself in the movie as a minor character or as a cameo, using lots of different and interesting camera angles, and at the end of the movie there being a twist, which I think is called an M. Night Shyamalan twist or something they're starting to call it now, and the movie being set in Philadelphia, which most of his movies, I believe, do take place in Philadelphia, except maybe The Last Airbender. I'm 79% sure that's not set in Philadelphia. The theme of this movie seems to be, what if there was a superhero in real life? So they explore that. When he finds out he has superpowers, he doesn't put on a spandex suit and goes out to fight crime. He takes time to do research on himself, try and figure out, has he actually been injured before? Has he actually been sick before? And eventually he does use his powers to try and help people, try and find out who's going to be in trouble in the future, and then go and help them. He doesn't save everyone, but he does his best. M. Night does use a lot of different and interesting camera angles. Like, for example, at the start where David is talking to that lady on the train, the camera angle is set to the child's perspective that's sitting in front of them, and it goes back and forth between them when they're talking. Interesting camera angle, doesn't really add that much, I think. There's also another one that comes to mind when Elijah is getting his comic book as a present, and the camera tracks the comic book being handed over to him and being turned around. Interesting shot and all, but I'm not really sure what that adds to the movie. It seems a bit pretentious. Unless these camera angles and shots mean a different thing in the movie, I'm not sure. If you do know, please let me know in the comments. That would be appreciated. This movie is pretty slow, to say the least. the scenes are long and drawn out. Not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. It would be a bad thing if I didn't care what was going on, if the story wasn't interesting and the characters were boring and what they were saying was boring. But like, for example, the interactions between David and his wife and David and Elijah when they're talking about heroes and that kind of thing. That's all very interesting. If you came to see a lot of action in this superhero movie, it's not the case. The things I enjoyed in this movie was that it had a very interesting hero story, a bit different to what we're used to. We have great acting from all the cast, and the characters are all very interesting. And it's actually a good M. Night Shyamalan movie, so that's a bonus in itself. Some of the things that I didn't like in this movie was that the cinematography can be a bit pretentious and didn't really mean much to me. The pacing-wise, it can get very slow, and I do admit it does get a bit dull sometimes, but that's only a minor bad thing in my opinion. And some things in the movie don't really make sense, like David Dunn finding out he has superpowers when he's middle-aged, when it seems like he's had these powers his whole life. Like, he should have picked up on it before then. Again, a minor thing. If you're looking for a superhero movie that's like the Marvel or DC movies, that's full of action, this movie is not like that. It's different. It explores a more realistic superhero kind of movie. If you're expecting a regular superhero movie like we're getting nowadays, this one probably isn't for you. As always, everyone, thank you very much for watching me ramble on about a movie for a few minutes. I really appreciate it. Thank you again, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. You can find me on social media. There's links to my videos down below. As always, thank you for watching.